Welcome. We're going to talk about CBD and our pets today. We're here with the founder of CBD Advantage, Michael Gick.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Our pets are like our children. They get a lot of issues. They're very important to us. How is CBD going to help mitigate those issues?
Well, our pets do experience very similar aches and pains, anxieties and stresses as humans do. They have an endocannabinoid system just like we do. And so for an example, your pet's getting older and hip dysplasia is a common thing that people come and ask us about at CBD Advantage. They can't move around, or they can't jump up on that couch, or they can't play like they used to. And, they're really getting older and we're not sure what the next steps are, but we sure aren't ready to be, we're not ready for our life without that part of our family. So do you have anything that can help ease that pain or help them through this period? And, we do, because we use products that do have CBDA in them, and they're full spectrum products, just like the human products. And they interact with the inflammation within those joints. And I can't tell you the number of stories where people come back that said, hey, we feel like they're on their last leg, and they come back a week later and they say, they dug under the couch, they pulled out their toys that they haven't had out for 2-3 months, they're running around, they're playing again, and they're back to themselves. So, just like a human, when you get that inflammation out of your body, you feel better, and when you feel better, you're more active.
So as they're getting older there, and we talk about the tough subject of euthanasia, there's clearly other options.
Age is inevitable for all of us, humans, pets, whatever. But, there are areas that these products are really working and hopefully prolonging and allowing that pet to be part of the family longer. We also have a lot of people come in and ask about anxieties, when it storms, my dog goes crazy, my cat gets gone for days at a time, or 4th of July, there's fireworks going off, and they just can't seem to settle down, and maybe they're having accidents in their cages and they haven't had accidents and things along those lines. But yeah, the CBD works within the CB1 receptors as well, and helps with that anxiety and the stress levels in pets also, to where people are giving us feedback that, hey, our dog used to run around and bark when it thundered and lightninged, and now they're maybe on edge a little bit, but it's very controllable.
Okay, so there's a really good calming effect there, is what I'm getting out of that. How about like a show animal, like with show dogs or show cats or anything like that?
Yeah. We do have people that come in and they want to know, I need some help keeping them focused or at their optimal show level or optimal performance. A great story, a funny story that happened just here real recently, because we're just getting through county fair times. We had a gentleman come in and needed a product for his show pig, and I just need her to focus when she's being shown, and came back twice and just ran and raved about how well that pig showed during the county fair and beyond, and how much more control they had of the animal while they were in the show ring.
So you've had thousands of customers. You've got to have an amazing amount of stories.
Yeah, and one of my favorite stories comes clear back to the origins, right at the beginning. About 2 months after we opened the company, the local TV station did a story on me because of my educational background, being a former principal and moving into a realm that a lot of people knew could help, but there was still a lot of stigma attached. So that was a pretty big story, that transition of careers. And when they were filming that, when it was all done, the cameraman came up to me, and I knew him somewhat because he had filmed some things at school, and we had somewhat of a relationship. He'd filmed multiple different stories on me as a high school principal. And he said, I have a dog that's just out of this world, off the chain. He said, he's nuts.
Yeah.
And I said, so how big a dog? And he says, it was a Chihuahua. And I was like, isn't that, aren't they all like that? And if you have a Chihuahua, I'm not meaning that, I'm sorry. But, he was talking about his dog and the anxiety and just hyperactivity. And, so we talked about the CBD product for dogs, and I said, just try it, give me some feedback, see what you think. Well, the very next day, I'm working the counter at the shop, and the first two people that come in walk straight to the dog product, which, a lot of people buy that product, but it was unusual that the first two couples that walked in went straight to it. and they were there back to back. And I walked over and I said, I just got to ask you. You know, I know that these products are popular. I know the story just went out on TV, but you know, what makes you come in for the pet products? It's kind of unusual that the first two people that come in today are both for the pet products. And they're like, we're the neighbors on both sides of the cameraman that filmed that story, and we slept last night for the first time.
Well, if you have an animal, or you might be the neighbor, where can we find these products at to help?
You know, if you have a pet that's suffering from pain or maybe anxiety, stress, or some other diseases, quite honestly, that CBD are having great results with, you know, click the link below. Look at our site. Look at our website. It has great information. It shares where our stores are. It talks about our products. You know, that's a wonderful place to start to gather information to figure out what product might be right for you or your pet.
Well, thank you for your time, Mike. It's been excellent.
Oh, perfect.